So the third installment in the trilogy of Talk About Ezreal Before He Gets Publicly Executed comes in the form of something I've actually been thinking about for a long time. Now, I've actually mentioned this before in the LS Liandry's video, but I felt it deserved a whole video of its own and really go in depth as to why I think this works. So the idea is that you should stop taking Conqueror on Ezreal. Now, I know most of you felt the diarrhea coming on as soon as you heard that, but today, I promise we'll be breaking the Ezreal meta that has stood for almost 3 or 4 years now. So it took me a long time to make this video. A lot of information will be dished out, so settle in, lads. First, I want to say this just to set the tone for the conversation. Conqueror is a melee first rune. It is split into two halves, and both of those are infinitely more valuable on melee champs than on range champs. So the question should really be, why do we take Conqueror on Ezreal in the first place? So for that, we have to go back in history a little bit. Now this was before a whole ass global pandemic happened, before Yuumi was ever released, before Bjergsen retired and left us this absolute kidney stone of a team, before you would ever believe that there would be a time when alcoves would come in and revolutionize the esports genre. There was a little rune called Fervor of Battle. Fervor was released towards the end of Season 5, but it wasn't until the beginning of Season 6 that it would become the Fervor that I remember. Fervor, for those of you who might have not been around 6 years ago, Jesus Christ. Fervor was essentially Conqueror, stacking damage on autos but just without healing on it. Also, Conqueror had a couple of iterations after Riot had to nerf and nerf and nerf and then rework Conqueror because it was absolutely broken, but you know, Riot learns their lesson and now they don't harass women anymore. The point is, when Fervor was buffed in Season 6 to 8 stacks max, that was like the defining moment for Fervor as a rune. Imagine maxing out Conqueror at 8 stacks. That would be absolutely repugnant. Except release Conqueror was actually 4 stacks for 20% true damage. Yeah, Season 9 was a crazy time. Now why do I bring this up? Fervor was the rune you took on Ezreal, and stacking AD on every auto plus on-hit effects was Ezreal's Viagra. Season 6 was the strongest point of the rune that would eventually become Conqueror. Obviously, release Conqueror dealing true damage aside, because if I smoked 5 pounds of marijuana a day, even I could do a little better than Fervor plus true damage all in one rune. But what made Fervor so strong was the fact that it maxed out at 8 stacks. But they eventually nerfed Fervor so that abilities didn't stack it, so there were only a few champs that utilized it well, Ezreal being one of them because his Q applies on-hit effects. But then Fervor at 8 stacks was so strong that it didn't last long. It got nerfed right before Worlds back to 10 stacks. It was still good. Obviously, Season 7 would have the famous Fervor Leona game where Ignar, a then very promising talent, now unofficially retired, would have one of the craziest games in World's history when he quite literally beat the shit out of the reigning world champions SKT in 2017 with Fervor Leona and almost single-handedly won that series. So all this to answer the question, why is it that we take Conqueror on Ezreal now? It's because of Fervor. So now let's move to the comparison between Fervor and Conqueror as it pertains to damage. So right off the bat, you're going to notice Fervor scaled almost twice as well as Conqueror in terms of damage. Conqueror goes to a max of 36 AD at level 18, where Fervor went to 64 at 18. And strangely enough, Conqueror scales better with AP. If only AP items didn't deep throw cacti, I would say AP Ezreal is actually a little better with Conqueror. Actually, they buffed them. I might have to try me some AP Ezreal again. Another interesting thing to point out is that Conqueror is actually stronger than Fervor early. Now, if we take a pretty standard Ezreal trade at level 3, which is auto, Q auto, right, pretty standard. With Fervor, that would give you 5.5 extra AD. And I'm going to be rounding up a little bit, otherwise it's going to get really cancerous really quickly. Where Conqueror, on the other hand, gives you 4 stacks for a total of 5.6 AD. I got you fucking Rugrats. It's not actually stronger at all. In the early game, Conqueror matches Fervor. Theoretically, yes, Conqueror goes to 14 AD at level 1, but I don't care who you are, you're not getting 12 stacks of Conqueror at level 1. It's not very practical. I'll tell you what is practical. Auto, Q, auto. That's how you actually play Ezreal. And when you do that, you're getting the same benefits as you did with Fervor before, which by itself is good, right? As Ignar demonstrated, Fervor was pretty strong early game. The issue is that Conqueror's scaling is half of Fervor. The issue is that by level 9, for an auto Q auto, the same auto Q auto, you get 3 more AD than you did at level 3. 8.2 AD as opposed to 5.6. So it's actually less than 3, but you know what I mean. Whereas Fervor went from 5.5 AD at level 3 to 12.8 at level 9. And when we're talking about the theoretical max of Fervor, if you auto Q auto, that's 3 stacks. That's pretty much halfway through to the maximum damage that Fervor can offer. Whereas the auto Q auto on Conqueror is 4 stacks, which is only 1/3 of the way to its max. It's a small difference, but actually hugely impactful in how much value a champion gets out of a rune. Because when they nerfed Fervor back to 10 stacks, it's only 2 stacks, right? That doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a 25% nerf. In theory, it's 2 stacks, but in practice, it's another 2 auto attacks, another 2 Ezreal Qs, which amounts to 3-4 seconds to get full stacks, full value out of the rune. Not an insignificant amount. Now consider the Conqueror is actually 12 stacks to max it out, which is a 50% nerf from the strongest point in Fervor's lifespan, and also while doing almost half the damage on top of it. So we can then assume that the value of Conqueror is also 50%, and that's because the other half of Conqueror is in the healing. Now I told you guys at the beginning I was gonna say some shit that was gonna make you blast off like Team Rocket. Here's the second one. Ezreal does not give a flying fuck about the healing. So, what I'm doing with this comparison is I want to establish what Rune Ezreal would want to be taking versus the one he currently does. The thing is that even if you didn't fully stack Fervor, you were still getting relatively good value for each stack. With Conqueror, you're supposed to hit max stacks, because if you don't, you're getting essentially half of a rune. You're getting what was half of Season 6 Fervor, and admittedly it was broken in Season 6, but still, we're talking about the ideal rune for Ezreal. And the point I'm about to go into is, again, practicality. How often do you actually find yourself maxing out Conqueror as Ezreal? And more importantly, even if you do get max stacks, how long do you actually stay at max stacks? And I know, I can feel it already. But pro players have been using Conqueror and they're clearly better than you. Sure, they are better than me, but they also needed the Green Goblin to come in and tell them to use their calculators. This man, LS, can barely even see, but it seems that as long as he's got his TI-84, he's good enough, apparently. See, nothing I have said so far has been an opinion. It is just facts, just raw numbers. They are just true. In terms of damage, Conqueror is half of Fervor. Fervor was a very specialized rune for very specific champions. Fervor gave you strictly AD, so compared to all the other marksmen that like to take Fervor, Ezreal's auto Q auto, basically getting you to half stacks, was best in class. In theory, Ezreal is not a bad Conqueror stacker. With your full combo, you're at 7 stacks in an instant. Not bad at all, if it was Fervor. But it's Conqueror, and the further you go into the game, the less those stacks are worth, because the entire balancing of Conqueror's damage is around the fact that you'll be healing at max stacks. So they have to give you less damage in order to balance it out. The healing is actually the power in Conqueror. But like I said, Ezreal doesn't give a shit about the healing. The issue is the practicality of Conqueror on Ezreal. The issue is that Ezreal at level 11 with 2 items, which is Ezreal's strongest power spike in the game, you do your full combo and then you just have nothing. Your E is on a 20-second cooldown, your W is on a 10-second cooldown, and you're at 7 stacks, meaning you still have 5 stacks to make up with autos and Qs. And if you happen to miss a skill shot on Ezreal, well, everything goes to shit and you will most likely lose your stacks. And again, you have to max it out or you're just getting half of the damage of Fervor. Now compare Ezreal doing his full combo and leaving him at 7 stacks, and I'll compare that to Renekton. And yeah, that's infinitely better. This is what I meant when I say that Conqueror is a melee first rune. Now I had a game in which I went 23, 3, and 16, and after 40 minutes of play, I had healed for 369 health. That's worthless. That's not even 100 health every 10 minutes. Sure, you could say I was missing skill shots and that's why I didn't proc it, but like I said, after hitting your full combo, you're still 5 stacks off. It's in that time that as Ezreal, the stacks end up falling off just because of how Ezreal wants to play. So now, let's go over all of the phases of the game and explain how Ezreal wants to play and the role Conqueror plays in each one. The early game, the mid game, and the late game. Now since I'm just a little NA scrub, let's take it to the other side of the world where better players reside. Now, This, don't laugh. All right, it is very difficult to get Chinese pro views, and this is the best I can do. This will probably look like Minecraft by the time it goes up on YouTube, but anyway, we have RNG Gala here, who is just a hair better than me on Ezreal, playing on stage against OMG in a pretty recent game. At least I think it's recent. It says summer 2021, but I don't know, in China that could mean fucking 2019 or some shit. So I hope it's recent. Early lane phase. Ezreal is not a very lane dominant champion. He gets shoved in most of the time. Now right here, OMG support does something my little NA brain could not comprehend at first. He traded cooldowns with Ezreal just to deny him CS. Mind blown, honestly. My support would be standing at my tower just trying not to get hit by abilities. Anyway, he lands a Q on the Kai'Sa, then Q auto, gets him to 6 stacks. Now 6 stacks, level 1 is 7 AD, which is like 10 damage on his Q. It's a good trade, but it looks the same with or without Conquer. Now OMG kind of mess up their wave here. I'm guessing because they were afraid of getting ganked, but now they're just kind of stuck here in front of Gala's turret, and he's free to space and poke as opposed to just having to farm under his tower, which is how it should have gone. So now it's 5 minutes into the game, and absolutely nothing has happened after that level 1 trade. Like I said, early game is by far the strongest time for Conquer. Getting those instant 7 stacks is a lot more relevant at level 5 than at level 11. So early, there is value even in just a few stacks of Conquer. But again, how practical is it? Here Gala is just getting shoved in, which if you're playing against a lot of the meta picks like Kai'Sa, Trist, Varus, this will happen often. You will never in a million years get to use Conqueror because you'll be under tower. And if you're going to be under tower with Conqueror, then you might as well not have a rune at all. See, OMG kind of misplay this in my opinion, because they don't really abuse Ezreal's weakest point in the game. I guess they didn't pick the champions to abuse him. And they end up giving him a free recall, and then he comes back with Tyr and Sheen, and he's just officially online. Ezreal has like very low base damages, but really strong scalings, which means he ramps up quickly. And sometimes one back is all he needs to just start slapping kids with or without Conquer. Now RNG kind of get their cheeks bludgeoned in this game, so the mid and late game aren't exactly fair chances for Conquer, but there is a fight at 21 minutes that I think really exemplifies what I'm talking about. So, at this point in the game, Ezreal has 2 items. Now, check the score. RNG has 2 kills to OMG's 11. OMG is 3,000 gold up. Everyone on OMG's side has shutdowns. And still, Ezreal right now is the strongest character in the game. That is just the nature of Ezreal's 2-item power spike. Now watch this. Boom. Swipe their fucking wig with a clean 300 damage. Now you gotta watch out, because he just got 2 stacks of Conquer. That adds to a grand total of 4 AD at level 12. His next Q will do an extra 6 damage. Oh, and there it is. Poggers. Now he's got 4 stacks. He's ramping up to 9 AD now. He's unstoppable. That's an extra 12 damage on his Q. Any more than that and Riot will nerf his W. You see then Gala walks up, throws a Q, then that's 6 stacks. That equals 14 AD, and that's a 14 damage boost to his ultimate ability that does 600 damage at level 11. So 14, that's pretty good. At which point his teammates were talking too loud, so he lost vision, and he would have lost his stacks here, but he landed a blind Q on the chick dropping tear gas. Gala ease in, autos, and he just now proc Conquer. Stop, bro. Stop. The rest of the game kind of just shows the story of Ezreal. Gala's team fell so far behind early that it was kind of doomed from very early on. Even though it looked okay in the middle, but it was actually kind of misleading. It only looked okay because of Ezreal's power spike. And they used that window of power from 20 to like 25, 30 minutes to steal 2 Drakes and delay Soul. But again, the further that game goes, the less powerful Ezreal becomes relative to the rest of the game, because everyone catches up to Ezreal. That's the story of Ezreal. And the thing we're addressing with this video is that window that you could very clearly see in this game, where RNG, despite being very far behind, stayed in the game just because of Ezreal. The question I'm asking is Conqueror helping you maximize your power within that window, your influence within that window? The answer is no. Now the key to this argument is to provide examples, but I could not possibly provide all the examples that I would like to have without having this be like a 2-hour video. But I will give a couple more. Now this is from that 23, 3, and 16 game that I was talking about earlier. As you can see, my jungler and my mid laner were working off a hangover, so understandably it must be very difficult to focus on not losing me the game that I am graciously trying to hard carry for them. I am then tasked with defending our base against the Toon squad here. Now watch this, I sniped their jungler from 30 feet, fucking god hand, call me Curry, and then put Indian in front of it. Anyway, pay close attention to how much healing I get from Conqueror in this fight. I start with 350, and then just check how much I heal at the end, right? Again, the big issue is practicality. In an actual game, it's not as easy as just use your full combo and then auto-attack to reach max stacks. As Ezreal, you rarely get to auto-attack. You always want to play off your Q, then once someone gets low enough, then you get to E in and use your full combo. So they walk out to pressure our turrets, and I'm sure at this point their intent is to win the game by taking out our towers and blowing up our nexus, which is actually not ideal for me. But again, I have to play my range. I can't just do the tactical and just smash my head against my keyboard and just whatever happens, happens, right? But that means that the instant 7 stacks that I was talking about doesn't happen. And after all this, the initial part of the fight, I leave with 8 stacks, meaning I still have to land 2 more Qs to even start using my rune. Like I said, I'm getting half of a rune, and it's not even that. So here, the fight ends up resetting, which again is often how fights go with Ezreal. You want to play off cooldowns, and if you don't have cooldowns, you cannot really fight. So the stacks end up falling off, and I start to push them out of the base. They stay too long, and I have literally landed every ability, and I finally proc Conquer here. Then I don't know, I guess it's the new skin, NASCAR driver Vayne fucking drifting on me, so she dodges the Q, and suddenly, like I said, if you miss Q, you're in deep shit. And look what happens, I'm out of CDs again, and while they're coming back up, Conquer falls off again. Now luckily they decided to play 3 marksmen against Ezreal, so I basically scale infinitely here, and notice how Conqueror is still at 350. It's only at the end of the fight, as I was chasing them out, that I get the full stacks, and I got the healing for it, and I got 19 health. 19 health. 35 minutes in. 6 items. 19 health. The healing is worthless. And sure, I get damage, but as I already explained, the damage is just half, mathematically half of the rune of Fervor, which Ezreal took in Season 7 3 years ago. You could say the AD has value, but does it really? At full stacks, as we already went over, I get 36 AD at level 18, which I wasn't in that fight, but whatever. That's just short of a BF sword. I reached full stacks in that fight twice. How relevant would you say that extra BF sword was in this game's outcome? Oh, I haven't even said it. People who watched my last video will know we lost this game. 40 AD would not have saved this game, or really influenced the game in any way, shape, or form. Even if Conqueror was practical, which it isn't. Ezreal is not a go-in and stay-in champion. You're playing around cooldowns, and if you're waiting around cooldowns, then your stacks will inevitably end up falling off at some point. Not even accounting for missed skill shots, which is pretty normal on Ezreal. I spent most of that fight at 6 or 8 stacks, and that is not influencing much here. But you know what would have influenced a lot this game? Exhaust, barrier, teleport, cleanse. It's a bit of foreshadowing right there, lads. But again, this isn't just a one-time thing. I've noticed this happening over the last year of playing Ezreal. Every game, I would just blindly pick Conquer like everybody else, and I just kept noticing that every game I would get 119 healing, 37 healing, 281. There was even a game from last year where I went 30 minutes without fully stacking Conqueror once, and I was 10, 3, and 11. And to just provide another example of Conqueror being subpar in Ezreal, there's this clip in which you'll notice I actually had Conqueror for a lot of the fight. Not all of it, but a lot of the fight. Again, it's hard to keep up your stacks as Ezreal. And by the end of it, just watch how much I heal. So you see, this is during a clash game, so the stakes are incredibly high going into this mid game. And at the moment of the highest pressure, my man Wilson, who's playing Malphite, manages to hit his R key and his flash key within 5 minutes of each other, which usually there's a bit of delay. Also, he hit 2 of the enemy players on top of it, so he's having an absolutely pop-off performance here. And again, something that's extremely important to point out is that Ezreal wants to play team fights in a certain manner. He doesn't want to just E in like a gopher. He wants to stay back and play his range until he sees the opportunity to E in. The thing is, you only ever E in as Ezreal if 1, the fight is already over and you're just chasing down kills, and 2, if you're getting dove and you need to escape and create distance. Either way, the damage or the healing from Conqueror do not matter at all. So right here, I E in to finish off Galio because no one on the other team could punish me for it. Like I said, the fight was pretty much over already, so the enemy team backs off and my stacks end up falling off again. Keep in mind, at level 10, I'm getting 26 AD for a fully stacked Conqueror, which is not bad, actually. For 16 minutes into the game, that's a pickaxe. Is that why I'm winning these fights though? How relevant is that at this point in the game? Especially considering that it scales off hard from here. So, continuing the play, again, the enemy team disengaged and my stacks fall off. I stick around though, again, trying to poke, play my range, knowing that I have my E as safety. I get myself back to 7 stacks, bait them into using their CC on me, and just cancel it with E. Now they don't have anything. And Conquer procs again. Now, I do miss this Q right here. Again, that's bound to happen. Fucking Uzi could not land every Q. But right here, that would have cost me the stacks. If it wasn't for a top esports mid laner Knight on Silas over here with the 4-man ultimate. Honestly, reminiscent of Kevin Durant last week. If he had anything else other than traffic cones on his team, he wins that, no doubt. And if you look at this play, Conqueror did not matter or changed anything about this play. But you know what would have? Exhaust. Even Ignite could have helped here. And after it's all said and done, I started the fight at 92 healing for Conqueror and ended it at 189. 100 healing. Poggers. Before I move on to what you should take instead, I'll give Conqueror this. All you have to do is just auto attack and you just get more AD on your next one. It's very simple, very passive, hands off. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to land abilities. As long as you auto attack, you're just getting more AD. Like I said, it is actually pretty good early. So in the case where you're skirmishing a lot and you get those instant 7 stacks, it's not bad. But that means that at best, it's a matchup dependent rune that gives nothing to you later on, because as we went over, the healing really does not matter to Ezreal, and the damage is half of a good rune from Season 7. Now, I get to my replacement for Conquer. That is Unsealed Spellbook. And when we talk about the downsides of Conquer, we talk about the power curves and how the rune he took kind of scaled off while he was supposed to be his strongest, so it's kind of counterintuitive in that sense. Spellbook will not give you damage. Even Lee Sin could see that much. But what it does give you is impact. The impact that you don't get from Conquer when you hit those 2 items. Ezreal's 2-item power spike has historically been one of, if not the strongest power spike in the game. So the goal with Spellbook is to make sure you get there, and you get there not with 20 AD at max stacks of Conquer, not with healing that is 33% nerfed for ranged champions, but instead you get there with Exhaust, with Ignite, with Barrier, Heal, Cleanse, even Smite could have a huge impact on the game. All it requires of you is to accurately read the game state and say, what will I need in the next 4 minutes? Which brings me to the other change you should make as well. Bring back TP on Ezreal. I'll be the first to admit, taking TP in SoloQ feels pretty bad, but with or without Conqueror, you should honestly just take TP. It just allows you to have insurance that regardless of your lane matchup, you are guaranteed to get the backs you want during your weakest point in the game. And again, if you get to 20 minutes and you have 2 items, you are the strongest character in the game, and it's not even close. Barring your teammates feeding, that's a different issue. So early game, you're missing some skirmishing power, that is true, but that's not the part of the game you should be playing for anyway. Sure, you can win some lanes with Ezreal, sure you can get some priorities with Ezreal, sure you could land a 5-man ult and instant stack your Conqueror and keep it up throughout the entire fight, but 26 AD at level 11, which translates to around 33 extra damage on your Q, and you have to land 3 Qs to have that extra damage amount to 100 damage, like... Even having 1 lanes, or gun priority, or getting a 5-man ulti to win the team fight. Look at all of those scenarios. Look at all of those games that you're playing, and I promise you, none of that is happening because of Conquer. It's very rare that 33 extra damage determines the reason why you win or lose a team fight. So why not take a rune that legitimately has more impact, that is just true? Exhaust just has more impact. And if you have to go to late game with Ezreal, one, Ezreal has never been a late game champion, regardless of the rune he takes. So if you're late in the game, you will just naturally have less impact over the outcome of the game anyway. And two, it's not like Conqueror was doing anything anyway. 40 minutes into the game, when one team surely has soul and you're going into an Elder fight or a Baron fight, a BF sword does not change the outcome of that game. And that's assuming you can get that many stacks, and also assuming you can keep the stacks during the fight. And, you know, Gala himself can confirm, it has nothing to do with skill, it's just not realistic. Now this is where the unfortunate part of this video comes in. Since Divine Sunderer got buffed, I have gone to play Ezreal like 4 times. Every time I queue up, this champion is just either permabanned, first picked by the enemy team, or if by the will of some higher power, I managed to actually get Ezreal, in the time it takes for me to wipe the tears of pure joy pouring down my face, somebody dodges. Or, like, the games are just awful. Like, I had one game where I had a mid lane Vayne, and she spent more time typing to the enemy team than actually playing the character. To the point where it was kind of impressive. This bitch was fast. Her APM must be insane. I wouldn't let them near a piano, lest I have to get a new piano. But the thing is I had one lane this game, and I could have talked about how, yes, you're weaker, but it's not like a champion breaking. And then I would have liked to go into like how I transitioned into that window of power that this champ has. But of course, there was no transition because the enemy team was so fed out of their minds that no matter what I did, this game was just lost regardless. So all the games that I played were not very good examples, either for or against. But if you guys want, I could make a whole video just entirely focused on Unsealed Spellbook and why I think it works and exactly how to use it. And once I get more time to get more clips, because I've been trying for the last week, and you only really get like 3 tries per day. So I've taken long enough to make this video, so just fuck it. So to conclude this absolute monster of a video, the early game, the mid game, the late game are all just infinitely better with Spellbook. And when we talk about giving yourself the best chance to win as Ezreal, as an AD carry, I feel that right now that's with Spellbook. He is the only AD carry that can have that massive of an impact that early on into the game. And then you add Exhaust for that soul point fight or that Baron dance. I have a hard time seeing why you would ever take Conqueror over Spellbook. You lose so little, only like very early into the game would that extra damage matter. And as we already went over, the healing does not matter at all. So take Spellbook, take TP, get through the first 5-6 minutes, get your free back with TP, change to heal or barrier, even ignite, and then you can start laning for real. Like I said, Ezreal ramps up quick. Focus on farm in the early levels, and then just TP back with Sheen and Tier. Actually, if I'm taking TP, I'll just start Tier, because I'll be playing safe anyway, and the faster you stack it, the sooner that 2-item power spike can come, and the bigger that window of influence I was talking about will be. So anyway, this is a bit of a rare video for me. I'm usually more of a comedy guy, but I also have like that competitive side to me that legitimately has an interest in the highest level of play, and influencing that would be pretty cool. Which I do think this is influential. I don't think Conqueror is good on Ezreal in any capacity, and we should stop just blindly taking this shit. And honestly, I'm surprised no one has looked for alternatives, because, I mean, I guess, again, because Fervor was the one you took, and it's just kind of like a no-brainer. But again, like, it's completely different. It's a completely different game now. Also, just as a side note, expect to get roasted if you do this. Most teammates are pretty stupid, and they don't think with brain. So if any of them give you shit, just tell them to suck your dick and direct them to this video. Even if you don't have a dick. That hits even harder, honestly, if you don't have a dick. So if you guys enjoyed, if you have watched this far, please leave me a like. It took me a long time to make this video. Longer than I thought it would, honestly. Obviously, I would be more than down to continue the discussion if need be. But I'm out for now. Roll the outro, bitch. Bitch.